Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to the Czech Republic once again, and this is a beer that I'm really quite excited to try actually. So I've tried some really pretty damn good IPAs from the Czech Republic so far, and it always tends to be the case that when one of these countries that has a really traditional brewing culture, when they actually try brewing the American style beers, they always tend to be pretty damn good at it. So this is going to be the first black IPA that I try from the Czech Republic, although this one can technically be called a Cascadian dark ale, and it seems to have a good reputation as well, so I think this beer is going to be pretty awesome. So for this one we're going to go to the little town of Slaný, to the northwest of Prague, the capital city in Bohemia in the western part of the country, and for this one we're doing my first visit to Pivovar Antoš. So this beer is called the Antoš of Choo Choo, and it comes in at 7.8%. Like I said, it's a black IPA, Cascadian dark ale, however you want to term it. On the bottle they're describing it as a Specialny Tmavy, so when it comes to Czech beer styles, a Tmavy basically is kind of similar to a German Schwarzbier if you like, but basically it refers to anything that is a black beer basically. But like I said, 7.8% black IPA this one, or a Cascadian dark ale, however you want to term it, but it's supposed to be a pretty damn good beer. This was one I think that I bought from Pivovar when I was in Olomouc, and the guy there said that it was a pretty damn good beer, this one, so definitely looking forward to it. And as always, I hope you guys enjoy my take on it. It's a shame because, like I say, the black IPAs were all the rage a couple of years ago, but they seem to be a little bit of a kind of forgotten style now, in favour of course of the kind of hazy New England IPAs. But looking forward to this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on the beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Pivovar Antoš. I'll only manage to get one of their beers back with me, but hopefully I can get more in the near future. So very first time I'm trying one of their beers. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Czech beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. You guys watching in the Czech Republic seem to be enjoying this series as well, so don't hesitate to suggest some other Czech beers for me to have a go at, and hopefully I can get back to Czech at some point in the fairly near future. But anyway, to tell you a little bit about Pivovar Antoš then, on to my brewery notes. So as I mentioned to you, Pivovar Antoš are based in Slaný, which is to the northwest of Prague, and they were founded by Josef Pavlik back in 2010. So the town boasts a really strong brewing history, and this kind of culminated in the 17th century, and at that point the town boasted a total of 15 breweries. One of the biggest producers was the brewery of Ondřej Antoš, who acquired a house which is now known as the Modletsky, if I'm pronouncing that right. I do apologise if any of these Czech pronunciations aren't quite right, but the Modletsky in 1518, and he later began brewing here in 1536, and one of his descendants, Václav Antoš, held the office of mayor of the town, and he was the one who rebuilt the house into its current form back in 1578. So the house was later acquired by Vilém Modletič, who actually gave it its name, the Modleticky, as I mentioned a minute ago. The Czech language is really a bit of a nightmare to pronounce actually. But later the town became part of the earldom of Jaroslav Borzity z Martintlíc, who basically cancelled the rights of all the other brewers in town and then built his own brewery in 1629. So, you know, basically the boss man came in and sort of shat on all the little guys, which, you know, does happen quite often actually. But it was at this brewery that František Ondřej Pope actually wrote his famous brewing book at this between 1794 and 1798. But this brewery remained in operation until 1884, and after this time there was no brewing in the town for around 135 years, basically until Pivovar Antoš came around. So they of course named this brewery after the Antoš family, who were quite prominent in the town's brewing history, which is quite cool actually. So the story of this brewery kind of goes back to the 1990s if you like. So Josef Pavlik had actually lived in Prague during the 90s, and he got bored of basically drinking only Krušovice, but then he moved to Slaný and fell in love with a dilapidated house which was near the town square, and this happened to be a 16th century brewery, the one that we've been talking about before. But he received funding from the culture ministry, took out some bank loans and used a chunk of his own money to restore the building and turn it once again into into a brewery, but this time a modern brewery, of course. So he recruited his friend Daniel Lauda, who was a native of Slaný but had also lived in Prague and worked in the restaurant trade, to actually be the manager of the restaurant and bar and things like that. He'd worked in one of the Staropramen pubs and various hotels around Prague city. But the brewer at the brewery is David Masha, who is also a Slaný native, and he basically wanted to return home after years of brewing abroad. He brewed in Mexico, South Korea, Moldova, and also Iceland as well. So the brewer does have a pretty damn good pedigree when it comes to the beers. But so, you know, an interesting operation. If you look at the house, it looks absolutely beautiful. It's one of these ones that's very kind of similar it's got this really beautiful old building that they've restored. They had to get a lot of monitoring from conservationists to actually restore this house, which is pretty cool. So it's got this modern kind of interior when it comes to the brewery, but they've maintained a lot of the old kind of classic rooms and things. If you look at the pictures of it inside and stuff like that. So very, very cool company, this one. It is cool to see that this kind of revival of little microbreweries in the Czech Republic is coming on, because a lot of them, of course, were destroyed kind of during the communist era when private enterprise wasn't really allowed. But it is cool to see that Czech is making a really strong comeback. You know, the Czechs went through some really kind of horrible things when it comes to the communists, but you know, they've come out strong, and they're probably one of the strongest economies out of the former Soviet countries in Europe. You know, Estonia and Czech are the ones that are doing really pretty well, but all the countries in sort of Central and Eastern Europe are starting to do pretty well these days. But it's really cool to see that they are reviving these Czech brewing traditions. But that's all you really need to know about the brewery just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, have a check at the brewery website. It is all in Czech. There's not an English section yet, but use Google Chrome and you can use the translate section there. But yeah, as I say, a really interesting company. But let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So yeah, it looks really quite nice actually. So the artwork on this one is kind of interesting. So it's kind of like the house has eyes and things like that. It's a little bit creepy. I'm not sure how well you can see that. You can see that the house has eyes in the roof there. It's almost like a kind of haunted house, this one. I'm not sure if there's some kind of translational meaning that I'm missing from this one, if Choo Choo is, you know, like a nickname for some kind of haunted house. But nicely presented beer, this one. They are quite distinctive. From what I've seen, all the other Antoš beers actually are quite, they've got a similar sort of style of label and things like that, just different pictures and different colours and stuff like that. But one of the things to point out about the Czech beers is they always like to put the Plato rating on them. That's really big when it comes to Czech beer. So this one is 18% Plato, but when it comes to ABV, which is pretty much the thing everybody else uses, this one comes in at 7.8%. But yeah, really nicely presented beer, this. So without further ado, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Certainly looking forward to this. There is the bottle cap on this one, by the way. Incidentally, I'm sure it was Václav Antoš actually that designed the sort of symbol that you'll see on the top here with the anchor and the sort of W at the bottom. It was him that designed that thing in 1758 when he rebuilt the house actually, and he put that on top of one of the sort of archways in the house. That was one thing they said on the website as well. But yeah, really nicely presented beer, this one. So let's get it out and get on with the tasting then. Like I said, this is the first black IPA that I'm trying from the Czech Republic. So yeah, nice little bit of a smoky opening on this one, and we'll get it out into the glass. So some other really notable black IPAs that come to mind that I've had on the channel over the last little while. Black Betty from Beavertown is one that I've always enjoyed. Black Malts and Body Salts from Toil in Denmark is a really good one. I had a really good one from Beerbibliotek as well, but I cannot remember the name of that beer for the life of me, but that was a really, really good one as well. Like I say, the black IPA is an interesting style. It was one that people really raved about years ago, but it seems to have been a bit forgotten about because of the emergence of the New England IPAs, but it really is a beautiful style. And I've always felt, to be honest, that when it comes to black IPAs, they're always at their best when they're imperial or they've got a little bit of caramel in them. I always feel they need just a little bit of sweetness to kind of balance them out. But yeah, so this one, as you can see, it's poured a nice dark sort of ebony rosewood colour, which is what you'd expect. If I hold it up to the light, the edge on this one is a sort of dark chestnutty colour, but looks, you know, it looks really nice. You can smell some of the lovely fruity qualities coming off this one. just as you kind of open it up. But you can see there, there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of the head there. I think this beer would actually be quite hazy. If I put, you know, you can't see it anyway just because of the colour of it, but I do suspect, just going by the way the light is passing through this beer, it would be kind of quite hazy. There was about a half finger of a frothy, I would say very light sort of beige head on this one, but that's faded away just to be a very kind of thin foamy layer. But yeah, it looks pretty much as you would expect a black IPA to. So let's have a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Ooh. Yeah, so what I would say about this one then, I suspect this is going to be another one that has a lot of these lovely Czech malts in it. As I've said, when it comes to the other IPAs, you could almost create a sub-style when it comes to Czech IPAs because of the way the malt comes out. The Czech malt has this really distinctive bready, smoothie quality to it, and I'm really kind of, you know, I'm really detecting that in the aroma of this beer. So you really can smell a nice sort of bready note to this one, but it's a bit more like a kind of brown bready character. There's a little bit of you can smell the sort of roasty black malts coming out of this beer. They're actually quite prominent, but there is a little bit of brown sugar in there. I would say it's a kind of biscuity sort of sweetness that's coming out of this beer. Definitely some earthy hops as well, and you can pick out a little bit of a red fruity note. There's almost a little touch of a kind of tropical quality to this one. There is like a little bit of a kind of grapefruit or citrusy note. You can pick out a little bit of a red fruit as well. There's almost a little bit of a kind of candied strawberry or slightly figgy note to this one. But yeah, grapefruit's definitely nice little bit of earthy hop, maybe a touch of grassiness, but you've got a nice roasty black malt backbone to this one, but you can pick out some of the sweetness from that sort of bready note as well. But overall, you know, it does smell really quite nice actually. It smells pretty much as you would expect a black IPA to. As I said, on Rate Beer they had this one listed as a sort of Cascadian dark ale, so I do suspect that it has some Cascade hops in it, but they didn't say on the website exactly what hops they were using in this beer. But it smells really quite nice. It's got that nice little bit of sweet malt to it, so I'm hopeful that this is one of the ones that has the nice complexity to it. But as I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in. But let's try this one now. So this one is the Antoš of Choo Choo, a black IPA, Cascadian dark ale if you like, at 7.8% from Pivovar Antoš in Slaný, just to the northwest of Prague. So let's have a taste of this beer then and see how we get on. Let's get stuck in. Slanje, skål, na zdraví. Yeah, that's a pretty nice beer. I have to say, you know, thumbs up to Pivovar Antoš. I'll say that straight away. Yeah, that's a really, really nice beer. But, you know, I'm not surprised, to be honest. You know, as I said, the Czechs are really talented brewers, and it's always an interesting thing. I found that with the German brewers, and I found it with the Belgian brewers as well. When they start brewing these styles that aren't, you know, native to their own countries, they always do it pretty well because, you know, they're such talented brewers, and it's, you know, they put their own little kind of interpretation on it. And I would say that about this beer as well. It does have a little bit of that kind of distinctive Czech smoothness to it when it comes to the malt base, and it really suits it. It really does actually suit the beer. So yeah, as I always say with these dark beers, sugar it around your palate a little bit and let your whole mouth adjust before you start analysing the flavour too much. But with this one, you definitely feel that nice kind of smooth malty bready quality that just blankets the middle of your tongue. As you go further into the aftertaste, you start to feel a little bit, there is an element of a brown sugary note coming out of this one. I would say there's a little touch. It's not quite as strong as caramel. It's almost a little bit more like a kind of you know, sort of biscuity syrup. It reminds, the flavour that I'm getting out of this one reminds me of digestive biscuits, McVitie's digestives. I'm not sure if you get those in the Czech Republic actually, but it really reminds me of just this kind of lighter biscuity note. There maybe is a little touch of caramel right in the centre of the palate, but what you'll notice with this beer is that as you move out towards the edge of the tongue, as you go further into the aftertaste, you start to get that roasty black malt character coming out of this one. It does actually have a good bit of a roasty black malt backbone to the beer. Actually, it's nicely balanced. The malt base is nicely balanced, and it does have that kind of traditional Czech edge to it that you want. But yeah, everything in this beer is nicely balanced. I mean, as I said, with the black IPAs, I've always said they need a little bit of a biscuit malt or kind of caramel malt to them, just to give them a little bit more complexity than relying too much on a roasty black malt backbone. This one definitely has that, although I would say the roasty black malt is a little bit more prominent compared to some of the other ones that I've had. I do like how it's just got a little bit of that kind of roasty black bitter edge to the malt base, and that lingers into the aftertaste. It really lets you know that you're drinking a black IPA, which I do like about that. It makes its mark on you. In terms of the hoppy side of the beer, then on the back corners of the palate, a little bit of a kind of earthy bitterness there, which is good. That builds a good bridge between the kind of roasty black malt flavours that I was talking about and the hoppy side of the beer. So a little bit of a kind of slightly darker, bitter, earthy quality to this one. As you come further forward, there's maybe a little touch of herbal quality just in front of that, but then as you go towards the front corners of the palate, you've got a nice slightly floral quality to this one. It's quite nice, and then round the very front curve of the palate, you've got a little bit of that kind of lighter sort of grassy thing there, and of course the fruity juicy notes start to come out just behind the front curve of the palate there, which is quite nice. And the thing I would say about this beer overall, this one's more about how the flavours kind of blend together. It's not too punchy in any one regard, although like I said, the black malt does make a bit of an impression. It lets you know this is a dark, this is a black IPA, this is a Tmavé beer, if you like, if you want to put it to the Czech perspective. But in terms of that little fruity bit behind the front curve of the tongue, then, so as I always say, you get that little oily bubble where the fruity esters start to come out of the beer, just behind the front curve of your palate. So for me, this one, you can pick up, there's a little bit of a slightly dark grapefruit flavour. That's just kind of underpinning the whole fruity side of this beer. So just pay attention to that. That sort of blankets the kind of front part of your tongue there, and you can feel just some of the roasty black malts just starting to push into that actually. But then as you go further and further into the flavour, you start to get the sort of candied red fruits coming out of this one. When you mix Cascade with these dark malts, it gives you a nice red fruity quality to the beer. So for me, this one has a little bit of a figgy note that kind of lingers into the aftertaste. There's a sort of candied strawberry thing in there as well, but there's maybe a little touch, I don't know if there's a little touch of a kind of raisiny sharpness to this one. Yeah, on the front end of the beer, there is a little bit of a kind of slightly sharper, raisiny quality to this beer, but then that smooths out. You start to get the grapefruit there, and then there's a sort of juicy red fruity note that comes out of it a little bit later on. But I mean, overall, it's really nicely balanced, this beer. The most prominent flavours, like I say, the roasty black malt does make a good bit of an appearance there. It lets you know this is a black IPA. The earthy hoppiness kind of lingers into the aftertaste, but you start to get some of the bready malt more, and a little bit of that sort of biscuity sweetness as your palate adjusts more and more to the beer. But there's a nice sort of juicy fruity note to it as well. But like I say, overall, it's just a really really nice beer, this one. It's all about how these flavours mix together, and for me, this is a really well balanced one. As I say, I don't know whether it's best to draw the line between it being a black IPA or a Cascadian dark ale. I think they're just, the Cascadian dark ale for me is a type of black IPA. As I say, the Czechs as well would term this beer Tmavé because it is a black beer. But I mean, the main point is, you can talk about styles all day, the main point is that it is a solid beer. It's a nice beer, this one. So in terms of the mouthfeel then, definitely a mid-bodied beer for me. The carbonation is pretty smooth in this. Yeah, overall, the mouthfeel is a little bit oily, I would say that about it, but that suits it. It does give the malt base just that little bit of sweetness that you want to balance it out. It does actually get a little bit more biscuity as your mouth adjusts to it more and more as well, and as it warms up, I guess, too. But there's a nice little bit of hoppy bitterness, like I said. The earthiness kind of sticks there. That builds a good bridge with that roasty black malt backbone that it has. But the malt base is balanced a little bit between the sweetness and the roasty character, although it does lean a little bit more towards that roasty side, like I said. And there's a nice juicy fruity quality to the beer as well. Overall, really nice beer. Certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again. I think it would be a really interesting one actually to have on tap, and just to get that really kind of Czech smooth quality out of it. It's nice in the bottle, but I do think this is one that would be even better to actually have on tap at the brew house. But yeah, a really interesting beer, this one. Cool to try my first black IPA from the Czech Republic, and yet again, as I say, these countries that have the brewing heritage, they tend to do really well when it comes to brewing the more American style beers, and this is no exception to that. So have a go at it if you get the chance. I would highly recommend this. If you like things like Toil, Black Salts and Body Malts, Beavertown Black Betty, things like that, you will definitely enjoy this beer. So have a go at it. So yeah, really interesting one. So let's leave it at that. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Pivovar Antoš. Do let me know what other beers I should try from these guys as well, and hopefully I can return to them at some point in the near future. So yeah, until the next time, Slaný just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. This was the Antoš of Choo Choo, a black IPA, dark Cascadian ale from Pivovar Antoš in Slaný in the Czech Republic, not too far away from Prague. Until the next time, Slaný just now, and I will catch you guys soon. Na zdraví.